Welcome back to Adventure Capital, a podcast hosted by Wefunder exploring the world of community rounds. I'm Johnny Price, president of Wefunder and fearless podcast host. Today we're interviewing Edreece Arghandiwal, co-founder and chief marketing officer of the Oakland Roots Soul, Oakland's professional soccer team. In late 2023, the Oakland Roots Soul launched an explosive community round on Wefunder, raising over $3 million from thousands of their fans. If you have a second, pause this podcast and go find their Wefunder video on YouTube. It's called Our Town, Your Team from September 2023, and the link is in the show notes. It's one of my favorite Wefunder videos I've ever watched, truly inspiring and a great glimpse of what community rounds in general and the Oakland Roots Soul race specifically are all about. Edreece helped architect and mastermind the Oakland Roots Soul's community round, and in this interview he talks about how and why they decided to invite their fans to invest in the club. Before we get on with the podcast, we're required to let everyone know that anything we say here should not be interpreted as investment advice, recommendations, or soliciting investments in any company. And now, with that legal box checked, on with the show. Edreece Arghandiwal, Chief Marketing Officer of the Oakland Roots Soul. Welcome to Adventure Capital, man. It's great to have you here.
Thanks, Johnny. Great to see you. Thank you for having me. Excited to have this conversation today.
And that is a beautiful view behind you, Edreece. Where are you calling in from today?
I'm calling in from the sunny side of the Bay Area, Oakland, California. Arguably best place in the world. Born here, raised here in the Bay Area, reside in downtown. It's absolutely stunning, man. We're so lucky to have not only some of the best weather in the world, but access to regional parks, culture, events, and just a lot of outdoors, a lot of amazing restaurants. Most recently, I think Condé Nast considered Oakland as one of the best food cities in America. So very lucky to be here, very, very lucky to be claiming Oakland as my home. And every day I wake up and I see this view, I'm like, man, what a joy to be working for a pro sports team that I helped co-found in the city that I was born in, which is a trip. So
love that, man. This week in Oakland tourism, brought to you by Edreece Arghandiwal and Johnny Price. Yeah, that is a great intro and a great backdrop. Downtown Oakland, beautiful Oakland in the background there. I mean, you mentioned there co-founding the team.
Yeah.
Give us an overview of what is Oakland Roots Soul? Where are you guys at? And then maybe, give us a quick overview of your journey as a company and a club so far.
Yeah, happy to, Johnny. Love storytelling. It's a big part of our club's identity. But for me personally, man, my journey started back in 1989. A's World Series. That's when the year I was born. My father, my mother are refugees from Afghanistan, and they landed here in the Bay Area back in the late 80s. I was born in Oakland. My first sports experience was in Oakland, California at an athletics match at the Coliseum. And I remember that providing me with a tremendous sense of joy and belonging. It was my kind of pillar in the identity that I would build over the subsequent years. And Oakland has always been at the forefront of cool, has always been at the forefront of activism in culture, music, sports, all of that. And, it shaped who I was as an individual and ultimately led to the co-founding of the organization around 2016-17 when myself, fellow co-founders, a group of individuals from Oakland/Bay Area got together around some coffee and some football on Sunday League and said, why not professional?
And just to be clear, when you say football there,
yes,
you mean the game where you kick a ball with your foot as opposed to the game where you handle an egg with your hand.
That's right.
So what most listeners might know is soccer.
Yes, sir. Yeah, exactly.
But, hey, as a Brit, I appreciate the accuracy of football.
Of course. This is a hot topic in the world: football versus soccer. We'll take both. We'll take both of those as terms. But yeah, man, we were a group of individuals that had a tremendous ambition to bring professional soccer to Oakland, and we wanted to see it done differently. At the time, the Warriors had plans of departing to San Francisco. The Raiders had plans to go to Las Vegas, and that concept to me was very bizarre. What part of the UK are you from? Like, what's
Well, I
home?
totally agree, man. I'm from London, and in England, right, it's like Manchester United,
Exactly.
and they stay in Manchester. And the idea that Manchester United would up and move to Las Vegas,
Exactly.
it just
Right.
like is like does not compute.
Yeah. Is that your
And
club? Is Manchester your club?
yeah, which hey,
Yeah.
they give me a hard time because yeah, like I'm from London, I'm a Man U fan, and it's like a joke in England that all the Man U fans are from London.
Yeah.
My defense is that my dad was from the northwest of England, and
Uh-huh.
he supported Man United, and he told me
Yeah.
to support Man United when I was a kid. So that's my defense. But yeah, if you're going to give me a hard time for being a Londoner supporting Manchester United, then that's my get out of
That's
jail
not
free
a
card.
stress. That's not a stress. But I think the concept that we're getting to is that, imagine Liverpool
Right,
moving to
moving
Manchester, like,
totally
or
does
something
not compute.
insane, you know?
Yeah,
It
yeah,
just doesn't make sense. But in
yeah.
America, it's such a monopolized territorial concept, and it's a business, right? And I think adversely in Europe and in other places, uh, football, soccer is merit based. When you win, you move up. When you lose, you go down. And there's promotion relegation. Community can start a football club. A common person can start a team overnight and compete and do well over time and build a brand and become 100-year long institution. The fact that uh, you know to get into Major League Soccer in America costs $500 million in a prime market is a very interesting concept,
Mm,
and
yeah.
that's the kind of thing that we wanted to combat in the early days is the lack thereof a pathway. We at the time were Division 4 or 5 when we started Oakland Roots, and we were just known as Oakland Professional Soccer LLC at the time. We launched the brand and the identity. People loved it. I remember the merchandise flying off the shelves in the early days, and we didn't even kick a soccer ball. And people just loved the idea of the logo, the brand, what it standed for. And that led to the ultimate creation of the football club, the soccer team in 2019 when we kicked our first soccer ball in August 31st of 2019, my 30th birthday. I remember very vividly going to the game and thinking, this is wild.
That's a
6,000 people
nice
showed
birthday
up.
present.
And best birthday present. Yeah, 6,000 people showed up, and we had no ticketing infrastructure. We had nothing built out. It was just like crazies that wanted pro soccer in Oakland, and here we are. And it was a fantastic experience, one that I'll never forget. And I remember feeling a tremendous sense of pride coming out of that game around us building something real. And at the time, we were Division 3, right? And the subsequent years, a pandemic hit. We had to deal with the challenge of building a sporting organization in a world where you can't play sports with fans. And that was very volatile and difficult, but we were able to navigate that, then acquire the USL Championship license to move up to Division 2, kicked off our first season in USL Championship in 2021, and have had a very successful, campaign of football and building of fans, despite the circumstance that there's no proper soccer infrastructure in the East Bay area. In Europe, you will find a soccer field on every corner. You will find a stadium in every nook and cranny. Here, there are no venues that meet FIFA standards for professional soccer. And so we had to create that at every venue that we played in the past several years. And that was a very taxing and difficult part of building this whole thing, is playing in a multitude of venues, a multitude of communities, building fan bases everywhere you went, almost kind of acting as a traveling circus in a lot of ways, right? You're developing the game day experience on the fly, and then you have to pack it up and do it again the next week. Until finally we managed to land a lease agreement at the iconic Oakland Coliseum this past year. And we had our home opener a few weeks ago. This podcast is timely.
Yeah.
We
How many people were there?
26,000, man. 26,000
Amazing.
people in
What
American
was it? What
sports.
was the previous biggest attended
Yeah,
at a home game?
at USL championship level, 31,000 by Cincinnati was the record.
No, I'm saying
Uh-huh.
for you guys as a club,
Oh, for us
for the Oakland
specifically.
Roots, yeah.
Yeah, well, maybe our venues prior to the Coliseum were limited in size to about 6,500 max.
So you
So
went from 6,500 to
yeah,
26,000.
26,000. Yeah,
Unbelievable, man. So
unbelievable.
cool.
I don't think anyone has seen that type of a jump in American sports history, and we were able to exhibit that quickly in our market, and it was a beautiful experience. We had a multicultural event. We had Too Short performing at halftime, fireworks after the game. I couldn't have dreamt and or have mapped out a better experience for someone that was born here and someone that is very lucky enough to be a co-founder of the club. It was
And I
special.
mean, you say you founded in 2016. The first home game in 2019 on your 30th birthday. I don't know how many people were there, but a fraction of 26,000. And then 6 years later to play your first game in the Coliseum. It's like you were proud in 2019, and now even more so to kind of see the journey you've been and how far you've
Oh,
come.
amazing.
One thing,
You
I mean,
know, uh-huh.
yeah, go for it.
I was just going to say that the difference between what I felt in 2019 and what I felt 2 weeks ago during the home opener, in 2019, a lot of work went into hopefully creating a concept that people would enjoy and love and appreciate. And they did. And that was validating, that was happy, that was joy. I think there's no greater thing in the world, Johnny, than coming up with an idea, than going from inspiration to perspiration, and then having people enjoy what you create. I think that is the literal highest level of joy in the world. And I was able to experience that in 2019. Then I had the privilege of putting 10,000 hours in to get to a place where we could be successful at a higher level. Um, People ask me, "Did you expect this?" And I'm like, I'm not. I'm not surprised. I'm grateful, and I would have never started this if I didn't believe it could be the biggest thing. Otherwise, I just wouldn't have done it. I have that principle philosophy in my own life, which is like, I'm not going to partake in anything that isn't going to move the needle and or change the fabric of our world. And I knew we would get here, maybe this fast, not really,
Mm-hmm.
And I remember after 322 a couple weeks ago, I actually had a slight difference in feeling, and that was a feeling of responsibility, right? After welcoming 26,000 people, you now have a sense of responsibility to live up to their expectations and standards and to do them justice. And so I'm
That's
almost
cool.
like hungrier than ever now, man, which is
Well,
great.
you've got kind of a couple of additional elements of that responsibility, right? One is the A's left, the Raiders left, the Warriors left. So you guys are really flying the torch, if that's the right, carrying the torch,
Yep.
flying the flag. I mixed my expressions there for the city of Oakland, well, the town, I should say. And then secondly, and this is obviously we'll talk a lot more about this over the coming minutes here, but you now have thousands of citizens of Oakland and fans of Oakland who maybe were born there and moved away, or the diaspora, and also maybe just people that like soccer teams and investing in soccer teams and soccer. But you have thousands of investors through the community around, so there is a responsibility, I guess, not just for the fan base, but also the owners and the shareholders and the investors in the Oakland Roots and Soul, who obviously are also the fans. But yeah, I wonder if that responsibility is kind of almost
Oh,
elevated by the fact that now thousands of citizens literally have kind of wealth and their money tied up as investors in the club.
yeah, I mean, you're talking to the exact dilemma of a co-founder, right?
Yeah.
for people that don't know my specific role, I'm, a 35-year-old Afghan American born in Oakland, sitting on the board of a pro soccer team on the C level, also running marketing, and I'm a co-founder, right? So like the layers of all of that is highly complex. And it means that your attention and your awareness is on a multitude of things as it relates to the business. Are the investors happy? Are the fans happy? What is the sentiment at game days? Do people appreciate the brand? And are we building awareness around our brand in the market, locally and globally? Am I helping contribute to the growth of sales and the fulfillment of partnerships? And, I'm also actively participating in investment fundraising conversations and future stadium conversations. And as someone that is from here, I get the cultural landscape, and that is something you just can't buy. And that is a key component of Oakland. If you're not tapped in, if you don't get the local environment, it just isn't going to work. And I use the example of like European clubs where, could you imagine a billionaire coming to London and saying, hey, here's a new team. And I've never been here, or I'm not from here. I don't understand your culture or anything, but I'm going to just create a team and a brand and you're going to like it.
No.
It just doesn't make sense, right?
Yeah.
And so I think Oakland, more than anywhere in the world, is prideful of their identity.
Right. 100%.
And you can do that in a multitude of communities in the Bay, or if not the United States, and it would be acceptable. But more than anyone in the world, here you just can't do that. You got to really understand the fabric and tap in and get the stakeholders and the elders and the OGs and pay respects. And I think those are the things that are unseen but have led to the success of the organization, is our community footprint, our purpose. I always knew that when we started this club that we needed to have a differentiator. And this is where fellow co-founder Mike Geddes, our chief purpose officer, help shape our identity around this concept, which is we're not just a business. We need humanity to fuel the business. How could we expect fans to show up to a stadium if we're not putting them first, right? And I use the example of the Athletics here in Oakland as, a team that was highly profitable because of their media rights and their deals. They crunched their numbers, skimmed as much as they possibly could, had zero fans at the games, but consider themselves a sports team. And I think that's just fundamentally flawed. No disrespect to anyone building these organizations, because I know that there's hundreds of people involved in these processes and not everyone's at fault. But sports teams are cultural community assets. And if you're going into it to squeeze the community and culture and extract money, that is not the right reason to build it. And you will make money. You will be profitable if you put humanity and people first.
100%. That's where it kind of comes full circle, right? So if you invest in the people, the roots, and then it actually makes you more successful economically as a club as well. I love the names, right? The men's team, the Oakland Roots, and the concepts that you're speaking about here, right? The roots of Oakland go deep. The pride in the town goes deep. And then the women's team being the Oakland Soul, right. Again, like the soul of Oakland, like very, very important to what you're building to the club. So you literally couldn't have chosen a couple of better team names. But I guess moving the conversation then to, the kind of primary point of this conversation, I guess the community around that you guys did on Wefunder, and you obviously did a couple. The kind of primary first one where you let most of the fans invest, and then because there was kind of excess demand and some really cool announcements, then okay, let's do another one. Like, and maybe this is an evergreen thing where every year we're getting new fans, but we're kind of always letting our fans become owners. and kind of investors in the club. But you know, it seems like a very natural, almost like response to the concepts that you're talking about there. Okay, we care deeply about our town. We care deeply about, building a club that, it puts our fans and the people of Oakland at the center. We have a chief purpose officer. This isn't just about like making a quick buck and selling out. And so therefore, the idea of like giving citizens of Oakland the opportunity to invest through a community round. The analogy I was given the NFL is the Green Bay Packers, right? It's like owned by the people. It seems like a very natural response. But take us back to those kind of initial conversations. Like, I don't know if you even remember, it was a few years ago now, but how did you have the idea? Like, kind of what were the considerations that were going through you and the other kind of co-founders and executive team about, this is like an interesting, unusual way to raise money. Like, should we do this? What are the pros and cons? Like, what were the considerations that you were looking at as you guys decided to do this?
Yeah, fantastic question. And in the beginning days, I think it's notable to mention Detroit City FC as an example. They were a few years into existence when we created Oakland Roots. And, I remember seeing them and Chattanooga Football Club doing community raises. And that was a novel concept in American sports at that time, which is not just an exchange of something monetary for a perk, but real equity and value creation in the business. And I remember hearing about that, being very excited about that. And when we were co-founding the club, we actually made that a point of discussion in the very early days of structuring the club, which is like, do we want to be community owned? And certainly the answer was overwhelmingly yes, for sure. That is what a purpose-oriented professional sports team would do, is involve the community in the value creation and upside and participation. And so I think the challenge for us in those early days is that this concept was still very new. And I think we knew that we had to build a market and build enough demand for us to then be able to educate a wide enough base so that it would be a successful round. That was key for us. It was developing the proof of concept, developing the business so that people had a reason to invest, right? I never liked the idea of investing in a concept. I love the idea of investing in something tangible and real and something people can see the value of and not bet on the hopes of the future. And we were able to build enough of a track record of success where we said, okay, now feels like a good time to deploy this campaign and involve our community.
And we don't feel like we're kind of asking them to kind of take kind of so much of a risk. Obviously, it's always a risk to invest in kind of, early stage companies or in any investing, even if you're investing in like a public company that's been around 100 years, or it's all risky to some extent. But you've kind of significantly de-risked it by, working through those first few years and, getting it to a point where, okay, now it's like there's something more for of fans and community to invest in. I mean, the other aspect of that, right, is like on the success of the raise. So if you're trying to raise before you've really built a fan base, you're going to find it much harder to raise that money, right? By the time you came to launch on Wefunder, which was, I think, late 2023, then you have like thousands of, probably 50,000, I can't remember, like Instagram followers, people on the email list getting the emails, fans coming to the home games. So you'd built that audience so that then when you launched the raise, it was very explosive. And if you want to check out the page, wefunder.com/Oakland is the link to the page. And I'm on it right now. It looks like 6,338 investors, 3.648 million raised across 2 rounds. But I mean, by the time you did come to launch it, you had that audience say that the launch
Yeah,
was explosive.
that's right. And it's this goes back to the exact thing we were talking about in the early part of this discussion, Johnny, around extraction of money from the community, right? Doing it too early without fleshing out the concept that we're trying to build is actually unfair to the community that we're trying to get participating in the round, right? Like if we're in a volatile state and we're developing a concept, why should we have people risk their own money in that campaign? I think the key thing for us and the reason why it was successful is because we built a track record of success. We built an accumulation of wins over time. We showed our attendance growing over time. We showed revenue growing over time, merchandise growing over time, and our brand was growing globally, to a point where we were actually able to invite a global environment to participate in the round, not just people locally. And that's the beauty of what we're trying to do, is develop something that anyone anywhere in the world can appreciate and subscribe to. And it worked. We spent practically $0 in marketing rolling out this campaign. It was completely about the database we already built, the success we've already shown, the right time in the right place with the teams leaving and departing Oakland. This was a chance to double down and commit to something that's going to be here forever. And, we told an incredible story around the growth of the club and did that internally and organically. And people spread the love. And I think you
Well, your
couple that.
video as well, which I know you were kind of a mastermind behind, but that video probably is my favorite WeFunder video of any of the thousands of companies that have launched on WeFunder. This is maybe my favorite ever. It was like, wasn't it like, what is a sports team anyway?
Yeah,
Am I remembering that right? It's like
exactly.
just so much more than like a sports team. It's like family, kind of
Yep.
community ownership. It was extremely moving. My only sad point is that for the second raise, you updated the video, and so that first one went. But I can still find it on YouTube, and
It's
I
on
watch
YouTube.
it every
Yeah,
now and then. If that I'm talking to someone and they're like, "What's some of your favorite
yeah.
WeFunder videos?" I'm like, check this one
Check
out
this
from
one
the
out.
Oakland Roots, right?
Yeah, yeah. The
But I
second
mean,
one was
so the video was amazing. The storytelling was amazing. The timing, as you say, was very kind of
huge.
opposite with the other teams moving out of Oakland. But to get a little bit more into the logistics and the nitty gritty, what did you do to kind of execute on the raise? Like if as you say, Chattanooga FC have done a community round, and we funded Detroit City. Minnesota Aurora women's team, raised $1 million a couple of years ago. Did another raise with us. So there's other sports teams. I think it's an amazing fit for WeFunder is an amazing fit for sports teams. So if there's founder of the next soccer team or whatever team that's looking at launching a WeFunder, what are the kind of tactics that you guys found like especially successful that you'd recommend they kind of follow suit on?
Yeah, I think just back on the point of the video, we were able to actually show the story of the club in that video because we did it, right? It wasn't conceptual. Here's what you're investing in. It was this is us. This is real, and you have an opportunity to participate in it. Why shouldn't you own it? And it was controversial in a sense that it posed a question around professional sports to people. Why shouldn't you own it? Why is it that only one person owns it? It's a community asset. It makes no sense. Here's a chance to change that narrative. So I think as people are thinking about the marketing of their own campaigns, they should be thinking about how their concept differentiates in the marketplace from a storytelling component inside, as well as just from a philosophical viewpoint. Like, how is this thing different than anything I've seen before? And how is it going to add utility and value to my five senses?
Mhm.
And those are the things that I generally try to checklist through when we're doing marketing is it tapping into my emotions as a person? Is it relevant to the current landscape? Is it going to provide value to the individual? And I see it on social all the time, Johnny, where like people now in their bios have like co-owner of Oakland Roots. And to me, that's like so dope because people think and believe that being an owner of Roots and Soul is a very cool thing. And to be
Yeah.
a part of that family is a benefit. And
I do think that's a really good point you're making there. I think so much, and this is the chief marketing officer and you mentioned earlier, like storytelling is a big kind of part of your role. I feel like you personally do that exceptionally well. You guys as a team, a club, do that exceptionally well. Um, but yeah, like you that getting that right, the differentiation, the narrative, the storytelling, the Wefunder page, the video, those assets of kind of telling the story and why should you invest, why should you care, that is critically important. Then when you've got all that done, and it's like, okay, if anyone hears about this now, and if anyone comes to the page, then they're going to get excited, they're going to get fired up and
yeah,
inspired to invest. But then there's still like, how do you get the word out? So from a kind of execution of, how you logistically, the various different marketing like tactics that you employed. I mean, obviously you had the audience. So if you have the audience and you have like an amazing video, amazing story, narrative, kind of to some extent, it's maybe if you build it, they will come. And, kind of virally taking off. I'm sure you were getting a lot of people like sharing it with their friends. But if you can think back to whenever it was kind of late 2023, okay, you've got this beautiful page, you've got the video, then what were the different kind of ways in which you got all the eyeballs to come to the page?
yeah, yeah. It's huge, man. I mean, I think of marketing and branding as a pie, right? And there are slices to that pie that you need to consider holistically. Email marketing is one. Human connection is a very big one.
Mm-hmm.
Word of mouth is another one. The copywriting on the Wefunder landing page is another one. The graphics that present the data is another one.
Yeah.
And each one of these leads to a decision to transact.
Yeah.
And furthermore, today's marketplace is very, very difficult in that people's attention span is just like zero. So, especially when you're trying to compete for their money. So, you really have to create emotional triggers and you have to create as many touch points as possible to lead to a transaction. I think here in the Bay Area, the amount of touch points needed to turn into a transaction is like on average 11 to 13. So you need to hit people 11 to 13 times for them to turn into a transaction, right? And that's very, very difficult in today's landscape. But there's creative ways to do that. And there's ways to do that with zero investment, i.e. the way we launched our Wefunder campaign. When someone invested, we had automation emails sending out to those individuals with graphics that they can then use in social. We had automations
That's a really, just to dwell on that one as a
yeah,
specific kind of tactic for a moment. So yeah, whenever someone invested, you send them an email. Thanks for investing. Welcome to the club. No pun intended.
yeah.
Here's the graphics that we would love for you to share on social media. And then you saw people kind of sharing that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, people are sharing it, expressing their excitement and their pride in the moment. That creates yet another 100 or 1,000 or whatever touch points, and then you couple that with countdown graphics on your social platforms. You couple that with email marketing that spreads awareness on the current circumstances. Perks are another layer to that. Perks aren't everything, but they are yet another touch point.
Can you remember what you guys did for the perks? I
Yeah,
can't
yeah.
remember.
We had a multitude of perks depending on the level. Um, Social media graphics, everyone got, and then as you progressed, you kind of got more sophisticated, fancy ones. 510
You
level,
remember some of them, yeah.
yeah, Yeah, the 510 level or $510 investment level was a creative.
510 Oakland area code.
That's our area code. Yep, yep. And that triggered the shipment of a owner T-shirt, of which folks really loved and appreciated and still wear at games today, which create a walking advertisement opportunity for other owners. And that was a special one. We had a investor appreciation event at the end of the year where we were able to actually meet some of our new owners and have conversations. We held um, town hall sessions locally with our lead investor, Akila Kadej, who really did an amazing job of spearheading the campaign and effort. And then most recent round that we did, my favorite part there was that we shipped owners at a specific level or higher, not only a T-shirt, but dirt from the Oakland Coliseum, a commemorative a vial of dirt, which, to some is funny, but to people that are from here is very meaningful. To have dirt from the iconic Oakland Coliseum from the Athletics' last home game, I think was a really special one. And I actually personally packed that myself with my own hands, and it was a special thing to see. So it's all of these organic touch points. And then I think the most success we had was creating a sense of urgency. When the round was coming to a close, we created a tremendous sense of FOMO, fear of missing out, with our influencers and our celebrities. And we didn't go after influencers and celebrities that were not affiliated to our local community. It was important that all of those people had a special tying connection. That was awesome because we were able to announce every time someone invested, a graphic would be put out. We would collab with that influencer, and then that would create more awareness towards the deadline, fear of missing out. You take all the other touch points they had, and here you are. We had a lot of local media hits as well by way of KTVU and Telemundo, and these folks locally help push the word out. And again, non-paid, this is organic, right? They wanted to highlight a success story.
Again, I think that goes back to with media, right? Like you guys got local, TV coverage, press coverage. It's like they're only going to cover it if it's an incredible story, right? So then again, it's like the more effort you can put into making the narrative and the story and the video just unbelievably inspiring, then you're going to be more likely to get that press coverage or get that journalist to respond where you pitch them on the kind of article. I just want to go back to something you said, because I feel like the kind of celebrities and influencers that were kind of investing in you guys' raise were that was very powerful. Like I remember Marshawn Lynch investing, and G-Eazy, and the lead singer of Green Day, and I think he had a couple of mayors of Oakland invest, who are obviously less cool than some of those positions, but still so how did you I guess that was a real kind of focus and strategy for you guys. So again, you probably did the hard work before launch. You had the relationships with these people. Right. You already had. It's not like the relationship with Marshawn Lynch came from the community round. But how did you kind of focus on that as a tactic? Are there any kind of recommendations or kind of advice you'd have for founders looking at it's with influencers?
Always be connecting dots, man. ABCD, that's my philosophy. I'm always finding ways to bridge a connection or connect a dot. And I think founders often get caught up in this concept of quote unquote networking, right? And I think it's the wrong way to be thinking about it. The way I have approached things in the building of this club is providing value to people, right? Like, how can I provide this person I just met with value so that the relationship isn't so transactional? And I've, of course, built my local relationships over the course of 35 years, and I'm from here. So that's another layer to this, which is if I went to a community that I wasn't from, this wouldn't have worked.
Starting from scratch. Yeah.
Yeah. But I had 35 years of just like community connection and build and culture and like asking, XYZ individual to invest was not a difficult thing
Yeah.
because Jason Kidd's, you know, XYZ individual that we knew vouched for us. And it just helped expedite the conversation and process, right? So, yeah, my cousin knows Marshawn. Everyone grew up together. Like G-Eazy, we have mutual connections and friends. We've crossed paths. Like all of these people have a connection to Oakland and or the Bay and or the club. And that takes time. And there's no replacement for that, really, man. You can't cheat relationship building.
And
That takes
what
time.
was the ask? Like, what is the ask? Is it like, hey, it would really help us out if you did this and then shared about it on social media, or what? Okay, you've invested years in building the relationships, the trust, and then what is specifically the ask?
Yeah, the ask for me was really about being a part of something that's bigger, you
Mm-hmm.
know.
Mm.
Um, Anytime I went to these celebrities or influencers, I know that they're getting hit with 1,000 things.
Right.
They're working on multiple conversations at the same time. They have management, they have agents. So I got to thread a needle that helps save them time. And by the way, the Wefunder mechanism is simple. Just having a link that I can drop and within seconds someone can invest in the club was a
Mm.
game changer.
Mm-hmm.
Prior, you have to
It's like
cook up all this
contracts and
documentation.
lawyers,
You
and
got,
yeah, yeah.
you got to set up a call. You got to send the deck. It's just like, here's all the info, here's the line, and we'd love to have you a part of our ownership group. This is something bigger. This is something that is going to change the trajectory of Oakland sports. It's our time, and we believe that Oakland would appreciate you being a part of this movement. And that was the narrative with Billy Joe, with others, and all of them are so gracious and always wanting to give back to their communities, right? And they saw it as an opportunity to do that and to stand behind Oakland sports, the community, and it worked out really well.
Any other kind of hacks or things that you guys did really well that you're like, okay, if you're doing a WeFunder, if you're doing a community round, you have to do this, you have to do this.
Yeah, yeah. I think you have to create a recipe that's unique to your organization and your market. Um, I always use this example of
Love
Barnes
that.
and Noble. Like, if all the books in there worked for everyone, everyone would be successful, everyone would be happy, everyone would figure everything out in life, right? But everyone is unique. Every organization has its own story. Every market is different, and you have to figure out the thing that is best for you. And there are common practices. There's good things that you got to follow and you got to do, the email automation, the follow up with the graphics, so on and so forth. But what that graphic says, how
Mm.
it looks, has to
Mm-hmm.
register with your market, and no one
100%.
can fabricate that for you, right? So that's the one advice I would have, is like really delve into understanding the person that's investing in your business.
100%. I used to kind of advise founders, oh, you should, go on podcasts, or you should like, host in-person events or that kind of thing. And over the years, I came to realize, like, no, like that's what I should do if I'm running a WeFunder community round, because I really like the sound of my own voice and I have an English accent. And, Johnny loves doing those kind of things. So if Johnny is doing a community round, Johnny should do those things because that's Johnny's zone of genius. That's very bespoke strategy for who Johnny is and what Johnny's skills are. But like, if you're, not good at that stuff, or you don't like doing that stuff, then you should do things whatever kind of is the right kind of strategy for you. And the same thing on the kind of messaging that you're talking about. Make it incredibly bespoke, authentic to who you are, kind of what your goals are, like what your kind of audience,
Yeah.
expects from you. Yeah. The other thing I would just highlight, you might not have realized you did this, but having seen a lot of companies in WeFunder, I realized you guys did this. One, you invested significant resources as a club in making sure this was successful. So there were multiple people, and you just really took responsibility and said, this is a major focus for us. This is a
Huge.
huge marketing opportunity, community building opportunity. and we don't want to kind of half-ass it.
Yeah,
So
right.
one, you kind of invested the time and effort and resources, and then secondly, you planned very, very meticulously well,
Yes.
and everything was like, that it was that kind of spreadsheet that we were looking at, like the kind of detailed planning. It was honestly one of the most, and I know Aquila was a big part of that as
Big time.
well, and
Yeah.
the whole team. But like the kind of sophistication and extent of that planning, or was it like kind of perfect planning prevents piss poor performance or something. You gave me ABCD earlier, which I never actually heard of before. Always be connecting dots. So that's PPP, PPP for you.
Yeah.
One for one on the acronyms. But yeah, those two things I would just highlight as things you guys did incredibly well. And any other sports team that's looking at doing it, it's like this is an
Thank you.
amazing opportunity. Like, leave it all out there on the field, as they say.
Huge. Yeah, man. I mean, um, I think a lot of everything, greatest people on earth and in what they do, genius, whatever, always visualize and plan meticulously. And I think you will never hear someone just show up to something without 10,000 hours and be successful. You will never hear a success story by any of the top athletes without them saying, at some point I've visualized the process or like I've worked towards creating the detail that leads to success. And I think when you do that, you just remove any room for doubt, And I knew when we were going to launch, like the amount that went into that planning, there was no way in which it could fail. Like I just knew that it
Right.
was going to be fine because
Yeah.
of how much we put into it. Now, if we would have just gone into it as a 10th priority on our list and then launched and just hoped that somehow the world would just figure it out, that's not the way it works, right? So planning and contingency plans were also huge for us, right? If we hit X goal, what do we do? If we don't, what's the next thing? That was key in the planning process as well. So
The other thing you did well, you kind of launched it in private and you were building up momentum in private and you were getting feedback from people and probably tweaking and iterating and refining a little. And then you kind of had the public launch. And by that point, you de-risked it even further. And you kind of got feedback and iterated on the plan a little, probably from those like earlier conversations in
yeah, that's
private.
actually a great point. Is we spent, I think it was close to a month, right, mate? Where like
From
we just
memory, yeah.
allowed it to percolate a little
Right.
bit,
Yeah.
right? And like we had conversations with people who were doing this, and it was almost like thousands of people already kind of knew that we were going to do
Right.
it.
Yeah.
We even had a countdown to the launch date, which was like 1 month out,
Yeah.
2 weeks out. And then when it dropped, there was a surge because people
Yeah.
were waiting for that moment to happen, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
You primed people, you kind of teased it.
Yep.
Idreece, thanks so much for doing this, man.
Thank you, man.
Your raise, wefunder.com/Oakland again, if you want to check it out. Or if you go on YouTube, you'll find the video. I think it was from 2023 from the first race. And the second video is great as well. Both are awesome. But yeah, if you want to go and kind of see some of the things that Idreece is talking about, I just love it. Was Jake Suggs' idea to make it instead of wefunder.com/Oakland Roots, and we were like Oakland Roots and Soul. I was like, let's just make it wefunder.com/Oakland,
Brooklyn,
and it
yeah.
was just like chef's kiss moment. But yeah, thanks so much for kind of sharing your wisdom and kind of ideas and best practices for other founders that might follow in your footsteps. I mean, I'll give you the last word. Maybe just kind of leave us with what's next for you guys. What does the future
Yeah.
hold for the Oakland Roots and Soul?
Well, as I mentioned, coming out of the home opener and breaking another American sports history record with, the highest attendance amongst USL active teams. I have a tremendous sense of responsibility and belief in the club, and I think we've always exhibited that like courage and risk taking sometimes favors you in a very large way. And we have an amazing investor group of community and accredited investors that believe the same things. And I think what's next is trying to break more records. And, we try to build a permanent stadium for Oakland, to have a soccer specific home for men's and women's professional soccer. And we try to traject to being one of the biggest clubs in the world. That's the 50, 100-year long vision, man. So thanks to you guys for making that a reality for us. The community round was crucial in a historical time for Oakland, and it was crucial for us as a club to get to where we needed to go. So can't thank you all enough.
Well, it's truly an honor to get to know you and work with you, and to be a very small part in your guys' community round. So thanks for trusting us with that, and I look forward to seeing how high you guys can fly.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate you. Thanks, Johnny.
Speak soon.
Take care.
I hope you enjoyed that interview with Edreece. What an absolute legend. His passion for and the pride in the team he's built and the town he calls home is beautifully plain to see. If you're a soccer club owner curious about letting your fans invest in your team, or any founder who's community round curious, new marketing term there, then hit us up. I'm Johnny at wefunder.com with 0 H's anywhere, or you can learn more at wefunder.com/raise. And with that, it's goodbye until next time.